prayer. And look what I see. These young guys are working on their car, fixing the tire.
Amazing. They're all around the same age as my son, and they are mechanics. They're actually in training, so they're here every day, and they are being trained.
Say hi.
So the guy that's training them is doing a really good job. So they fixed the tire, and now the day begins.
And they know exactly what they're doing as well.
Just amazed of how many sheep, how many goats, lamb that I'm seeing just headed to work. We're also in the middle of rainy season, so you can tell that it's kind of dreary looking, but overall, it's beautiful. It's very humid right now. Yes, last week was the cows, and as you can see, they are coming to eat, and it was a herd of them that came. We were doing some gardening work, and they just came out of nowhere. So we just feed them, and we just let them do what they do, and then eventually they'll leave.
These are cows. No.
Oh, is that the...
So as you see, we had our time with the cows, but back to the goats and the sheep and the lamb. It was very important to find out why they were there. So I just took the time to research it.
Hi. Are you the shepherd? Are you the shepherd? Uh-huh.
Unfortunately, the shepherd only spoke French, so I did not get a chance to speak with him directly. What is happening here in the Gambia, why I've seen so many lamb and so many, sheep and goat, it is the public holiday called Tabaski. And basically what families do that are throughout the Gambia, they ritually slaughter mostly sheep in a ritual sacrifice, which every married man or the head of a household is expected to buy a sheep or other suitable animal, such as a cow, goat, or even a chicken if they can. And what they do is they take a portion for themselves, they take a portion for others that are not able to afford one of the animals, and they give it to them so that everyone can participate. And then they have other celebrations along with it. They wear their finest clothes and they celebrate. And so that's why all of the sheep, all of the goats, all of the lambs, and all of the animals that I've been seeing for the last couple of days, it's not anything new to see a cow or a donkey or a goat, even a goat walking, the streets of the Gambia. But to see them in the abundance that I have been seeing them within the last 2 days or so, we've seen and met shepherds. So no one can tell me that the Bible was not, in the history of the Bible was not here in this land of Africa. It just brings the Bible to life. And so I wanted to share that with you. So let's get into today's message. Hey, thank you for coming back. When you get a chance, I want you to go to Genesis 22 and read it in its entirety. It does tell you the story. It gives you the story about Abraham when he went to Mount Moriah to sacrifice Isaac, and what that means. Something that I did learn as I was reflecting on the goats this week, and as I was reflecting on my own life and my own healing, is that Most High spoke to me and said, you can't receive complete healing without a sacrifice. And so I began to evaluate my process of healing and what I know that is preventing my healing. And so I want to share these keys with you. What's going to stop you from receiving the fullness of your healing? The scripture says in Psalms 50 that he desires truth in the inward parts. And in the inward parts will he make you to know wisdom. The full message that I received from Genesis 22 was about a man who loved the Most High with all of his heart. The scripture even reminds us to love him with all of our heart, with all of our soul, with all of our mind, with all of our strength. And there will be times where we're tested to see if we really, really love him with those things, with the fullness of who we are. Now, as we look in the scripture, there were offerings that were presented to the Most High. Normally when there is a sacrifice that needs to be done, there are different types of offering. You have the sin offering, you have the grain offering, you have the peace offering. You also have the offering that the Most High told Abraham to present to him, which was the burnt offering. So 3 things that are required for a sacrifice, and that is a priest, a victim, and an altar. And so Abraham was going to Mount Moriah, the land of Mount Moriah, to complete what the Most High had told him to do. He had the victim, which was going to be Isaac, of course, and the Most High requested that he do a burnt offering. There was no other kind of offering that he was requesting but a burnt offering, and it says it several times in the scripture. And a burnt offering is an animal sacrifice, and when they did the animal sacrifice, there was nothing of that animal that should be left behind. Nothing. The worshiper normally sacrificed the animal, and that was his worship to the Lord. If you notice in the scripture, that's what Abraham said, I am going to worship. And so Abraham proved his love to the Most High. When he went to that mountaintop, he knew that Isaac was his beloved son and that he would be the sacrifice. But he had to let the Most High know that whatever it takes, whatever I have to sacrifice, I don't love anything more than I love you, not even my own child. And sometimes we have to, when the Most High calls us to do something, when he chose us to do something, we got to listen and be obedient to that and do whatever it takes to let him know. Be tested on every level. Yes, Abraham was tested on the emotional level. We will be tested on the emotional level and our emotions. All right, let's go to Mark. Mark, the 12th chapter and the 29th verse. Yeshua answered, the first is, Hear, O Israel, Elohim, our God, is one Elohim, and you must love Elohim, your God, with your whole heart, with your whole soul, and with your whole mind, and with your whole strength. The scripture is saying that there are different areas in our lives that there's going to be a shaking in some of them. Most High will shake our foundations. And so just when we think that we got it all together, we're walking in the Spirit, we're walking by faith, when all of these things, He's going to shake so that we can grow and we can go to another level in him. And this is what took Abraham to the next level. He was accounted righteous because of his faith. And this is what the Most High is doing. There is something in our lives that is keeping us and is preventing us from receiving the total healing that we need. It's because we are refusing not to give our whole mind, our whole soul, our whole body, our whole strength, everything that is within us. We're holding back. When he went up to the mountain to give that burnt offering, the scripture says that what was required of them was for them to give every part of that animal. We don't have to do that today because Yeshua became the sacrifice. Yeshua sacrificed his life and he brought healing to the world. And so without a sacrifice, there is no healing. Without a sacrifice, there is no change. It is time to evaluate, to see what is keeping you from giving all of you to the Most High. Your mind. Let's start with the mind. What are you thinking about? Let's start with your soul. What do you hold on to? What is your soul tied to? Who is your soul tied to? The only thing that can stop your process of healing is disobedience to the Most High and your unwillingness to release and to let go. You cannot be healed without a sacrifice. If you stay where you are, if Abraham would have stayed down at the bottom of that hill, Abraham could have made excuses. He could have said, you know what, I'm going to find the next best goat that I can, or sheep that I can give to the Most High and sacrifice, but I'm going to keep my son. And many of us are doing that. Many of us says, okay, you know what, let me just do a little bit of this and then I'll be okay. You know, the Most High understands my heart. No, it's not. Ecclesiastes 3 tells us there is a time to heal. And I truly believe that this is your time to heal. If you're out there and you're listening to me and you're dealing with unresolved issues in your heart, wounds from the past, present traumas, you cannot stay in a place of hurt and still heal. The keys to healing is first acknowledging. There are 5 stages that one will go through in the process of healing. And that is grief, denial, depression, anger, bargaining, and finally acceptance. I don't know if it's in that order, but you will experience one or the other. And you have to identify where you are, because going through this process, you have to say, this is what's hurting me. This is what's bothering me. These are my wounds, so that you can identify them. And as you surrender, this becomes your sacrifice. Everything that you're experiencing right now, all 5 stages of those healing, wherever you are, and you determine where you are, Yeshua is your high priest. Even if you are the victim right now, take that to the high priest. And then you sacrifice all of the things that you know need to be sacrificed at the altar of your heart. Build the altar in your heart and go before the high priest, our King of Kings, Lord of Lords. Remember, healing does not come without sacrifice. And sacrifice demands trust. Just like Abraham, he had to trust when he took his sacrifice. And so do you, that the Most High will care for your heart and he will heal your wounds. To conclude this message, I want to leave this with you. All of the goats and the animals that I saw throughout the week were all representations of small sacrifices that I gave throughout my time, or that we give to the Most High. They're all small sacrifices. The sacrifice that he is really asking of us is ourselves. The scripture says to present your body as a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable, which is our reasonable service. He's not asking for goats. He's not asking for sheep. He's not asking you to go to church. He's not asking you to, to do all the things that we think is religious. He's not asking for that. But he's asking for your heart. He's asking for you to love him with all of your heart. Join me next week for another episode. See you soon.